The courtroom was hushed until the echoes of betrayal shattered the silence. Kody Brown, the man who was once praised for keeping his family intact, was now accused of quietly stealing almost $750,000 from the women who had called him husband. And as the truth started to unravel, each secret he kept buried for years was going to be pulled into the light. Flagstaff's courthouse was more subdued than normal that morning. A light rain pattered against old windows, the type of constant rain that causes people to whisper rather than speak. Inside courtroom 3B, all the seats were taken. Old fans, reporters, even Leahy neighbors from years gone by sat side by side, anticipating a glimpse at the man who once boasted on TV of being the most dedicated husband. Kody Brown walked in, dressed in a charcoal suit that didn't suit his swagger quite as well these days. No cameras today. No TLC team. Just the ring of his footsteps. And 4 women gazing at him from across the bench. Christine, Janelle, Meri, and Robyn. 4 names that once identified a family, now rent asunder by something more unfeeling than heartbreak: money. The charges had been serious: embezzlement, fraud, and financial infidelity, but the burden of not speaking was greater still. As the judge arrived, all stood. Even Kody, but you could sense the tick in his jaw, the same flash of pride that once bewitched millions of television viewers. Viv Brown had begun in earnest. The prosecutor, a reserved woman named Elena Cruz, started by spreading out a batch of bank papers. She didn't shout. She didn't have to. The evidence shouted for her. For over 3 years, she stated, Mr. Brown steered joint family money into a personal account, $782,400. That money was meant for the children's education, family expenses, and common property. A low rumble passed through the audience. Christine's fingers quivered over the tabletop. Janelle hunched forward, her eyes glinting like the papers might spontaneously combust. Robyn's eyes flicked between Kody and the judge, weighing which side of history she was about to be on. Kody's fingers interlaced before him, compelling a composure he didn't have. This is a misapprehension, he told the judge smoothly. I transferred the money for security, for our future. But his voice broke on that final word. All good lies start with one word that once held something true. In the hallway outside the courtroom, journalists whispered of hidden accounts, land transactions, and a dubious LLC in Nevada. Inside, Elena laid picture after picture across the table. Big cabins, a brand new truck, bills from upscale jewelers. This is where the money went, she said. Not to your wives, not to your children, to you. Kody sat back, trying to laugh, but the sound was bitter. You think this family ever thanked me for keeping it together? You think people even noticed when I was paying all the bills? His voice was hard, defensive. The old Kody, the one who always resented being questioned. Meri's eyes were wet. I cared, she said softly. The words hardly crossed the room, but all of them heard. Sometimes the whispering voices speak the loudest truth. Later in the morning, the courtroom seemed tighter, more cramped. The air was heavy with things left unspoken. Every wife remembered her own, the nights of anxiety, the lost funds, the vows made and broken by Kody. Christine recalled when she couldn't afford to pay a bill from the hospital for her daughter. Janelle recalled finding out that one of their family homes belonged in Kody's name alone. And Robyn? Well, Robyn recalled it all. She had been his most intimate, his last and legal wife. But even she appeared shaken as the numbers mounted higher. The judge paused for a brief recess. Kody rose hastily, pacing by the defense table. His attorney muttered something regarding settlement and avoiding press. But Kody shook his head. No, he grumbled. They won't humiliate me. Somewhere in the room, Christine's voice rose above the low hum. You did it yourself. As soon as pride is louder than love, the tumble starts. Recess over, the courtroom was back in order. Elena brought on her next witness. An old family accountant. The man fidgeted, tugging at his tie. He detailed how Kody had ordered him to restructure accounts, shifting family funds into new business ventures. At first it had been harmless, until the accountant figured out the wives didn't know. He quit a month after that, but not before he made copies of all the transfers. When he turned those documents over to the prosecutor, you could almost hear Kody's heart skip a beat. Janelle closed her eyes. Meri held onto the side of the table. Christine sat rigid, tears welling up. Even Robyn, the wife who had stood up for him on television, gazed down at her lap. The Brown dynasty, once cemented by common faith and togetherness, was shattering right before our eyes, bit by bit. Betrayal doesn't blow up. It seeps slow, relentless, inescapable. As the first day of testimony came to a close, the judge gazed at both sides. "This court will reconvene tomorrow at 9 a.m., she declared. "But I give you all notice, emotions will not govern this room. Evidence will." All of them stood as the judge left. The wives started packing up, their eyes not meeting Kody's, but Christine remained at the door. She turned back, glanced over her shoulder at him, and spoke softly. "You always claimed God was watching, Kody. Well, perhaps he finally got a good look." Kody remained silent. He just stood there stock still as the door closed behind her. The eye of your mind hovers on the lights in the courtroom going out, on the sound of her heels fading away down the hall. The next morning, the courthouse was packed long before the hearing started. Camera crews stood on the sidewalks, holding umbrellas and microphones, their breath misting in the cold Flagstaff air. Inside, the wives were quiet. Christine and Janelle together, Meri a seat or two over, and Robyn in the corner, hands folded in fists. They weren't 4 wives today. They were 4 witnesses. Kody was 20 minutes late. He had on sunglasses indoors, a lame try at concealing the sleepless night. He didn't glance at them, not a glance. When the bailiff called out, "All rise," the air felt thicker than the previous day. Judge Harper glared at him. "Mr. Brown, punctuality is expected in this courtroom." "Yes, Your Honor," Kody muttered. But his words were not sincere. The prosecutor, Elena Cruz, did not delay. "Your Honor," she said, "today we will have Mrs. Christine Brown testify." A shiver ran through the room. Christine stood up, her face firm but her eyes watery with emotion. She rested her hand on the Bible, took her oath, and gazed at Elena. "Mrs. Brown," the prosecutor asked quietly, "you were married to Kody for the 3rd time. When did you first realize something was amiss?" Christine breathed in slowly. "When it was selling the house in Coyote Pass," she replied. "I discovered the house I was told we all owned was actually listed in Kody's business name, not ours. When I questioned him, he explained it was a paperwork situation, but the paperwork never changed." She stopped speaking, her voice constricting. "That's when I knew the trust we had wasn't genuine anymore. It was all figures on paper. When trust is reduced to math, love no longer adds up." The room went still. Even the judge leaned slightly forward, studying her face. Elena showed her an exhibit, a document signed only by Kody. "Is this the paper you're referring to?" Christine nodded. Her hand shook slightly, but her voice grew stronger. "I begged him to make it right, but instead he moved more accounts. Every time we asked questions, he'd say, 'You're overreacting,' or 'You don't understand business.' But I did understand. I understood that he didn't see us as partners anymore, just liabilities." Kody's jaw clenched. His attorney stood, "Objection, speculation about intent." "Sustained," said the judge. "Mrs. Brown, please stick to what you witnessed." Christine nodded, wiping her eyes. "What I saw was my family vanish into bank folders. That's what I saw." For a moment, even Kody remained still. His fingers drummed quick on the table, faster, then ceased. Sometimes silence is guilt struggling to survive. When Christine stepped down, it was Janelle's turn. Her testimony was softer but more cutting, laced with facts and dates. Years of savings, tax returns, and missing checks. "I managed most of our money for a really long time," Janelle explained. "But when I went to audit the shared account, the passwords weren't working. I called Kody, he told me the account was being protected. Then I noticed withdrawals in a new business in his name." The prosecutor eyebrows arched. "And then what happened?" Janelle fixed Kody with a steady gaze. "I confronted him." The courtroom fell silent. "How did he react?" Janelle's lips twisted into a weak, sorrowful smile. "He told me, 'You wouldn't understand how real men handle money.'" That sentence struck the room. Christine closed her eyes. Meri bit her lip. Robyn's hands trembled in her lap. Respect dies the moment ego steps up to take the stand. Elena faced the judge again. Your Honor, these accounts reveal a clear pattern: deceit, fiscal isolation, and emotional manipulation. Kody's attorney, Mr. Fitch, sprang to his feet. Your Honor, my client has committed nothing unlawful. He invested family assets that were under constant siege. These women are motivated by anger, not facts. But the judge's face didn't lighten. Then demonstrate the transparency, Mr. Fitch. Release the complete records of those accounts. Fitch hedged. We haven't accessed all of them yet. The room hummed at once. Reporters scribbling, words spreading like wildfire. Kody massaged his temple, grumbling under his breath. Elena hunched forward. Is it because your client closed those accounts last month? Kody's head flew up. Objection, Fitch snapped. Overruled, announced the judge. The walls seemed smaller once more. Kody's face was cornered for the first time. When the truth begins knocking, denial runs out of doors to hide. Over lunch break, Christine and Janelle sat side by side in the hallway. Their whispers had a quiet combination of relief and fear. I never thought I'd say this, Janelle said quietly, but I almost feel sorry for him now. Christine shook her head. Don't. He felt sorry for us long enough. Robyn remained in the cafeteria, by herself. Her phone was ringing nonstop. Messages from fans, from friends, from people asking whose side they really were on. But she couldn't respond, because the truth was, she no longer knew. Back in the courtroom, the afternoon session started with a surprise witness, one that no one had anticipated. The judge asked for order as a financial investigator entered the courtroom with a pile of folders in his hand. He was employed by the Arizona Bureau of Financial Crimes. Kody's attorney scowled. We didn't receive notice of this witness. The prosecutor smiled weakly. We didn't either, Your Honor. He approached us this morning. The judge permitted it, and suddenly every camera in the room clicked on. The investigator introduced himself. My name is Ryan Mercer. I've been reviewing records connected to Mr. Brown's businesses. He opened the first folder. I discovered a separate account in Nevada under an alias C. Roberts. That account matches multiple wire transfers from the family fund. Those funds were then used to purchase gold assets and luxury vehicles. The courtroom exploded in gasps. Christine's hand shot up to her mouth. Janelle breathed softly. Oh my God. Kody's attorney objected again, but this time even he appeared dubious. Are you claiming, Elena asked, that Kody Brown forged a fake identity? Mercer nodded slowly. The documents indicate so. The signature, it matches exactly. Kody hit the table hard. That's not true. You have no idea what you're saying. The judge's gavel came down. Mr. Brown, you need to rein in yourself. But the harm was done. The crowd murmured like a storm brewing on the horizon. Reporters jotted. All eyes in the room were now fixed on one man. The man who used to proclaim himself a husband to 4 women. You can't bury the truth when it remembers your name. As court was adjourned for the day, Kody sat stone still, gazing at the table. He didn't even glance up when Robyn came walking up to him. Kody, she whispered, voice cracking. He didn't react. Christine and Janelle passed by without comment. But Meri, the quiet one, the overlooked one, hesitated for just an instant. Kody, she whispered, you constructed this family like a house of cards. And now it's your turn to stand back and watch it crumble. And then she walked away, leaving him in the chill ring of his own silence. Outside, the news reporters mobbed the wives as they exited. Flashes, microphones, pandemonium. The tale was already viral. And yet, within that vacant courtroom, one solitary figure sat alone, rain still pattering against the glass, gazing at the vacant seat where Christine had sat merely moments before. For tomorrow, another would stand there. Someone nobody anticipated. Someone who could possibly not reveal the tale Kody dreaded, but the one he never wished to be heard. And when she enters, everything shifts. The courthouse felt different the next morning. Heavier, colder, charged with almost an electricity of expectation. Overnight, reporters had doubled, overflowing the steps with flashing cameras and hushed voices that spread like wildfire. Inside, the wives sat in silence. No one spoke. Not even Christine. Each breath seemed to hang suspended in the air, waiting for something or someone. Kody came in the side entrance, accompanied by his attorney. He was exhausted. His hair, normally slicked back in self-assurance, lay loose about his face. He repeatedly glanced toward the gallery, sweeping every seat as if searching for a friend who never appeared. But strangers and judgment were all he could find. The bailiff bellowed for silence. All rise. Judge Harper entered. Sit down, prosecution, you may present your next witness. Elena Cruz rose, clutching a single sheet of paper. Your Honor, today's witness asked not to be named until today. She is ready to testify under oath about financial statements and personal communications between Mr. Brown and his previous accountant. Kody's attorney scowled. Your Honor, we were not provided this name in discovery. Judge Harper's tone was firm. You'll have an opportunity to cross-examine. Proceed. Elena turned toward the door. The prosecution calls Robyn Brown to the stand. A collective gasp swept through the courtroom. Even the sound of rain outside seemed to stop. Kody's face went pale. No, he muttered. No, she wouldn't, but she did. Robyn rose to her feet slowly, her purse clutched like a lifeline. She walked by Kody, her heels ringing on the floor without looking at him. She muttered under her breath and sat down, shaking in her lap. Mrs. Brown. Elena started, her tone soft. You were Mr. Brown's lawfully wedded wife. Can you explain to the court why you decided to testify today? Robyn hesitated. Her lip quivered. Because I can't keep protecting lies anymore. Sometimes, the bravest act isn't fighting back. It's finally telling the truth. A ripple of whispers filled the gallery. Christine's mouth fell open slightly. Janelle leaned forward, eyes wide. Even Meri's usually stoic face softened. Elena nodded, allowing Robyn to breathe. When did you first suspect financial misconduct? Robyn wiped her eyes. About a year ago. I found a folder in Kody's desk, marked business receipts. But when I opened it, there were cash withdrawal slips. Thousands of dollars, no business names, just transfers between his accounts. Did you ask him about them? Yes, he said I wouldn't get it. He said he was shielding us, that the other wives would destroy everything if they got in. Her voice broke on the word shielding. But he wasn't shielding us. He was shielding himself. Kody's face clenched. Robyn, don't do that, he growled. The judge scowled. Mr. Brown, you'll hold your tongue unless spoken to. Robyn breathed unsteadily. He said if I ever spoke of it, the family would disintegrate. He said I owed him for everything he gave up. But loyalty isn't silence. Not when it kills people. Where fear is a wedding vow, love no longer resides there. Elena nodded and picked up a file. Mrs. Brown, do you know this document? Robyn looked at it. Yeah, that's the wire transfer form. He had me sign as witness. And did you? Yes, because I trusted him. The gravity of her tone stilled the whole room. Christine's tears finally came. Janelle turned away, hiding her face. And Kody, formerly the focus of every conversation, sat there, retracting into his suit, smaller than ever before. The prosecutor inhaled deeply. Mrs. Brown, did Mr. Brown ever say where the money was going? Robyn paused. She glanced at Kody, his stare as sharp as a knife. Then she replied, he said it was going to the new life. A general whispering arose. The judge leaned forward. The new life. Robyn shook her head. He said he was getting ready to leave. To begin again somewhere where there weren't cameras, where there wasn't judgment, where there wasn't us. The silence that ensued was suffocating. Even the air weighed too much to breathe. Christine's fingers trembled. Meri spoke something inaudible. Kody spoke up at last. You think you get it, but you don't. You all wanted liberty. I gave you that. I just wanted something for myself. The gavel of the judge crashed. Mr. Brown, but it was already too late. His temper blast reverberated through the courtroom, ringing off walls like thunder. The minute the mask comes off, the world gets its first look at who's behind it. Elena continued calmly. Mrs. Brown, do you have evidence to corroborate these allegations? Robyn nodded deliberately. Yes, I printed everything. All the transfers. All the messages. The courtroom gasped for a second time as she produced a thick envelope. The judge flipped through it quickly, then handed it to the clerk. Let the record reflect this as Exhibit 12. Judge Harper stated. Kody leaned back, his temples massaging. He wasn't angry anymore, just defeated. Elena turned to him, her voice firm. Mr. Brown, would you like to respond? He just gazed at her blankly. No, he whispered. Not yet. The prosecutor returned to her seat. The silence afterward was louder than shouting. At that moment, something changed. Not only in the case, but in the Brown family story. The authority that had rested with one man was breaking down before the eyes of all. As court recessed, the crowd erupted in sound. Cameras strobed, microphones flailed, and voices ran together. Robyn made her way out quietly, not looking at Kody. Christine caught up with her outside in the hallway. Why now? She asked gently. Robyn's voice broke. Because if I didn't say it today, I never would. Janelle arrived, her face a mask. He'll try to spin it. He always does. Robyn shook her head. Not this time. He doesn't have anywhere left to hide. The truth may hurt, but it never hides forever. It blew up on social media that night. #Brown trial was trending nationwide. Fans who had previously loved Kody's family leadership now littered comment threads with rage and shock. But in his leased townhouse, Kody sat by himself, blue light from the TV dancing across his face. He relived the instant Robyn called his name, the instant his final faithful supporter turned against him. On the table was an unopened letter, labeled legal notice. His attorney had put it there after court. He gazed at it for a considerable amount of time, fingers shaking. When he finally opened it, his eyes grew wide. It wasn't from the prosecution. It was from another party. A new case, a new name, and across the top, State of Nevada versus Kody Brown. He stood paralyzed. This wasn't about secret money anymore. It was something much larger, and this time, none of his relatives were going to rescue him. Because tomorrow the secrets he had buried in Nevada are going to excavate themselves anew. The courthouse the next morning seemed colder than normal. Word had traveled overnight. The state of Nevada had launched a fiscal probe into Kody Brown. The media outside hummed like bees around a honeycomb, reporters scrambling for any morsel. Within, the wives were in strained silence. Christine drummed her fingers on her knees. Janelle's jaw was clenched. Robyn would not look up, would not meet anyone's eye. Meri sat back, arms folded, expression inscrutable. Kody walked in last, his swagger gone and a stiffness that spoke of fear. He moved deliberately past his discarded wives, glancing around nervously from one to another. He had dealt with cameras, judgment, and gossip before, but nothing had prepared him for this. Judge Harper banged the court to order. All rise. After taking their seats, the bailiff said, the court will now consider evidence of new financial information brought by the state of Nevada. Kody's lawyer spoke urgently to him in a whisper. Kody nodded his head, indicating he did not want counsel present for this. The prosecutor, Elena Cruz, rose, grasping a thick binder. This evidence is far-reaching, she replied, her voice calm. Mr. Brown's financial dealings weren't confined to Arizona. We've found assets, wire transfers, and accounts opened under several aliases in Nevada. These transactions add up to more than $900,000, money borrowed from the family and invested privately without their approval. Kody's face went white. His hands clasped the table. This isn't possible, he stuttered. When lies raise mountains, the truth is the avalanche. Samuel Ortega, a Nevada financial investigator, was the first to take the stand. He walked up to the stand, with digital tablets and printed documents in hand. Mr. Brown created at least 3 distinct LLCs and 1 trust account, Ortega stated. These were not reported to the family. Much of the money was diverted into luxury items, cars, cabins, and unusual collectibles. Elena inquired, were any of these assets used for a legitimate purpose in the family? Ortega shook his head. No, these were private investments meant to conceal money from the other family members. Kody's attorney protested, but the judge overruled. Kody leaned back in his chair, shaking his head. The courtroom was stifling, as though the air itself pinned him down. Christine's hands were held together so tightly her knuckles turned white. "This is precisely what I attempted to alert all of you to," she whispered. "Years of secrets can come undone in the course of a morning." Then the prosecutor summoned Robyn to the witness stand again. She hadn't said a word since yesterday's explosive proceedings, but now her face was ashen and resolute. "Elena, I need to present the court with messages between Kody's financial planners in Nevada and him," she explained. The judge nodded, permitting it. Robyn read, voice quivering slightly. "Transfer the money. Nobody can find out about this. Keep the accounts confidential. Guard the assets, no matter what." She broke off, swallowing hard. "That's what I saw. And that's when I knew. The new lives he promised us was never about the family. It was about him." Kody's head fell. Meri's breath caught in her throat. Janelle's lips clamped together tightly, fighting not to speak. Christine's eyes filled with tears. She had fought to hold back. The moment betrayal is spoken aloud, it cuts deeper than any sword. The gallery was silent, except for the occasional click of a camera. Elena's voice was calm but precise. "Robyn, did Kody ever explain why he hid these funds?" Robyn's eyes finally locked with his. "He told me it was for protection, that he was guarding the money from curious eyes. But the reality is, he was guarding himself from us." Kody's attorney attempted to cut in, but the judge shut him down with a crisp wave of her hand. In the hallway, news reporters murmured angrily, posting the surprising information on social media. Brown Nevada case was trending across the country. Inside, tension mounted. Then there was the emotional showdown nobody anticipated. Christine, Janelle, and Meri cornered Kody during a short break. "You lied to us for years," Christine said with tears in her voice and anger. "You betrayed your own family," Janelle continued. Meri's tone was husky but cold. "You were supposed to protect us, not steal from us." Kody attempted to speak. His voice cracked. "I did it for the family's future." Robyn cut him off. "The only future you were concerned about was your own." The wives left him standing alone, shaking. The sound of their footsteps seemed to be the final judgment even before the judge came back. "When those who had once believed in you turn their backs, you see the price of your decisions." Court resumed, and the attention switched to concrete evidence. Ortega showed pictures of high-end cars bought using the secret accounts, exotic sports cars, new SUVs, a mountain cabin. Each picture was followed by a trail of transfers, all leading to Kody's secret Nevada entities. The prosecutor spoke to the court. These acquisitions were intentional. Each transfer was planned. Each dollar was kept from the people who trusted him the most. Kody's face went pale again. His attorney whispered urgently, but Kody held up his hand. "No, no more." He spoke in a barely audible whisper. The judge ordered a brief recess, and as Kody sat by himself at the defendant's table, the reality of the moment finally hit him. He wasn't just fighting for exposure anymore. He was fighting for the destruction of a family he had created and destroyed in equal parts. As he gazed at the files in front of him, he saw something that froze his heart. One envelope, labeled in red, read, "Evidence not yet revealed. Personal communications between Kody Brown and undisclosed parties." He hesitated. A cold sweat appeared on his forehead. He had not seen these files. He had no idea what they were. And in that instant, he knew. The entire storm was yet to come. The courtroom was filled to overflowing the following day. The news of the Nevada probe discovering even more than anyone had ever envisioned had spread like wildfire. And every available seat was occupied by reporters, family acquaintances, and interested onlookers. The atmosphere within was thick, almost claustrophobic, heavy with expectation. Kody sat at the defense table, his gaze fixed on the papers in front of him. He had spent the evening going over the evidence. Wire transfers, bank statements, and letters he had assumed were confidential. Now, all the secret transactions, all the clandestine choices, all the decisions he'd made for protection were being picked apart in fluorescent lighting, cameras rolling in silence. Judge Harper came in and brought the court to order. "All rise." After everyone was seated, she announced, "Today, We will have the last family members testify before closing arguments. Christine went first onto the stand. Her hands were shaking a bit, but her eyes blazed with resolve. I trusted him, she spoke softly, voice steadying as she went on. I trusted him with my heart, my children, our house, our lives. And he betrayed every single one of us. Her words sliced through the room like a blade. Kody's head sank. He had dealt with cameras, rumor and gossip before, but Christine's voice carried a heaviness he could not shake. Betrayal rings loudest when voiced by those who used to love you most. Janelle testified next, and hers was even sharper. I was in charge of handling a lot of our family money, she explained, and I trusted him to do what was in our best interests. But he did none of that. He took money secretly and put it into Nevada, bought cars, and kept investments from the people who built this family with him. Each dollar he stole was a betrayal of trust and love. The prosecutor also produced documents and bank records, each one carefully labeled. As presented, the wives murmured to each other, highlighting the deals that specifically affected them. Kody's attorney tried to object in vain, but the judge ruled against each motion and allowed the evidence to remain. Meri was next. Her tone was steady, nearly unnervingly so, yet it held a faint quiver, betraying the intensity of her hurt. He told us he was saving the family, but saving doesn't include lying, she testified. Protection has nothing to do with stealing from your wives and children, and protection has nothing to do with hiding nearly $1 million in hidden accounts while lying about it, saying everything's okay. The courtroom was utterly quiet. Even Kody appeared to withdraw under her words, looking at the floor. When the truth is irrefutable, silence is more deafening than lies. At last it was Robyn's turn, the most highly awaited testimony. The courtroom breathed in unison, as she stood on the witness stand. I defended him in public all those years, she started, voice shaking a little. I said he was honorable, that he did what was best for the family. I trusted him, blindly. But now I know the truth. He wasn't shielding us, he was shielding himself. Every secret account, every covert transaction, every deception, it was never about us, it was about him. Tears flowed down her face, and for the first time, Kody was seen vulnerable by all the people standing there. Robyn went on, her voice becoming stronger. He wanted me to lie, to deny it for him, to turn a blind eye. I can't do that anymore. I won't be part of this lie anymore. Nobody said a word. Nobody budged. Even the journalists appeared paralyzed. Courage is in standing up for truth, even when it hurts the people you love. Elena stood up to introduce the last piece of evidence. A series of emails among Kody and Nevada financial advisors. The emails were incriminating, showing deliberate requests to transfer money, conceal transactions, and elude family control. The judge read the documents carefully, then looked straight at Kody. Mr. Brown, she told him firmly, you have an opportunity to respond to these charges prior to closing arguments. Do you want to address the court? Kody's face was deathly white, sweat running down his temples. He made to speak, but the words refused to emerge. His attorney whispered urgently, but he shook his head. Beaten. Christine, Janelle, Meri, and Robyn sat in a group, their faces reflecting relief, sorrow and steely determination. The women who had previously been torn apart by loyalty and fear, now stood together revealing the truth. Outside the courtroom, rumors had already morphed into headlines. Sister wives' financial scandal, Kody Brown exposed. Inside, the tale seemed far from over. The legal fight had only just begun, and Kody's kingdom, constructed on secrets, was collapsing in front of him. Power weakens when deceit is revealed, and pride crumbles when the individuals you care about leave you behind. As the hearing came to a close, the judge requested a brief recess. Kody sat, hands over face, hardly aware of the women exiting the stand. And then, a court clerk appeared, handing him an envelope. His eyes widened as he read it. This wasn't from the prosecution, it was a personal notification, a fresh legal complaint from the state of Nevada, with additional charges and evidence. Kody's hand trembled. He had not anticipated this. The courtroom doors shut behind him, the echo resounding in the empty hall, leaving him standing alone with the reality. The fight was no longer about money, it was about everything he had created and lost. What will he do when the next tidal wave of evidence comes crashing down? And can he weather the repercussions of his own actions? The courtroom was heavy with tension as the afternoon session commenced. Every chair was occupied, the atmosphere filled with murmurs and expectation. Kody sat at the defense table, hands folded tightly, jaw clenched. He had not slept well in days. With each fresh bit of evidence, each of his wife's testimony, something of his control had been eroded. Now the case was transitioning from bank statements and numbers to the strongest weapon of all, personal responsibility. The judge rang the courtroom to order. We will now receive testimony about Mr. Brown's personal behavior and its effects on his family. Prosecution, you may begin. Elena Cruz rose to her feet, clutching a thick folder. Your Honor, the next testimony will reveal the emotional fallout of Mr. Brown's fraud. Not just the financial loss but the hurt endured by the people who trusted him most. Christine was first on the stand. Her eyes were puffy from the night before's crying, but her voice was firm. Your Honor, I trusted him with my life. She started. I trusted him with everything, my dreams, my nightmares, my children's future, and he used that trust against me. Every dollar he concealed, every falsehood he spoke, eroded the family I had believed in. Kody's lawyer attempted to interject. Objection, emotional speculation. Overruled. The judge cut in harshly. Mrs. Brown. Elena went on softly. Please go on. I am not here to destroy him. I am here to reveal the truth. For my children. For myself. For the family that we once had. When truths are spoken, even the greatest facades start to crack. Janelle trailed behind, her back straight, her gaze unflinching. I managed most of our finances, she asserted. I believed he would use good judgment, act in our interest. Instead, he kept money under his mattress, falsified records, and kept us in the dark about the truth. The betrayal isn't financial, it's personal, it's emotional, it's every night I feared that we wouldn't make it through, while he mapped out a future we had no idea existed. The courtroom was quiet, even reporters were still in their seats. Kody slumped back in his chair, chin in his chest. The confident mask he always wore had dissolved. Meri stood up next. She didn't weep, but her voice was soft with intensity. He told us we were safe. He told us we were protected. But protection doesn't equal lies. Protection doesn't equal deception. Protection doesn't equal hiding almost $1 million from the people who trusted you with their lives. Protection doesn't equal betrayal. Pain has a way of exposing even the most carefully constructed illusions. Robyn was last, the most anticipated testimony. Her entrance drew every eye in the courtroom. She moved slowly, swaying slightly as though the weight of the past year physically pulled her down. She took the stand, placed her hands on the Bible, and swore her oath. I defended him for years, she began. I informed the world that he was honorable, that he did what was best for the family. I trusted him blindfolded. But now I know the truth. Every secret account, every lie, every deception was all about him, not the family. And I can't be quiet anymore. Kody's face went pale. He tried to speak, but nothing happened. The courtroom was quiet, the only sound the gentle click of reporters' cameras. Elena went on. Mrs. Brown, do you have evidence to back up these allegations? Robyn nodded. Yes, messages, emails, transfers, all the details he attempted to cover up. She produced an envelope. The judge read through it intently, her face furrowing as she read. This will be Exhibit 22, she said. The truth tends to make allies turn into witnesses, and defenders turn into accusers. As the day went on, the prosecution introduced more evidence. Text messages in which Kody ordered Robyn to lie, memos describing clandestine transfers, and letters detailing his plans for Nevada accounts. Each paper seemed to flatten Kody a little bit more. His attorney leaned in his ear, urgently whispering. But Kody just shook his head. The wives, together in the front row, exchanged no words, just significant glances. Christine's eyes were filled with pain, Janelle's with fury, Meri's with quiet resolve, and Robyn's with betrayal turned into courage. Kody finally looked up. And for the first time, the room saw a crack in his composure. He muttered under his breath, I didn't think they'd see it all. The judge paused, studying him carefully. Mr. Brown, the court doesn't care what you believed. The court cares about the facts presented before it. Actions have consequences. Consequences are the cost of deception when the world finally catches up with your lies. Then something unexpected occurred. Elena summoned a surprise witness, the former accountant who had quit a year ago. His testimony was cool, systematic, and ruinous. I was told to falsify records, he said, to transfer money from joint family accounts into private entities. I resisted at first, but later, I obeyed under pressure. Mr. Brown promised me the wives wouldn't notice. He said it was for protection. A new life for the family. I now know that wasn't true. It was for him alone. Kody's head dropped into his hands. He hadn't expected the accountant to break his silence so vigorously. The judge leaned forward. Mr. Brown, how do you respond to this testimony? He could only stand there, shaking, eyes darting to his wives, their faces unflickering in a gaze of unflinching clarity. When the pillar of your life has been constructed on dishonesty, one witness is enough to bring it all crashing down. As the court recessed for the day, the wives departed together, their footsteps ringing like finality down the corridor. Kody sat still, his chair a circle of piles of evidence, documents, and broken pride. Outside the building, reporters yelled questions, cameras flashing in his face, but he did not answer them. He had learned the hard way. The people he used to trust, the people he believed would keep him safe, had become the power that would force him to stand before justice. And as he looked at the evidence, a single thought flashed through his mind. Tomorrow, the verdict will not be about money at all. It will determine the fate of everything he ever loved. The courtroom was claustrophobic that morning, the sort of silence that weighs heavy on your chest. The crowd was packed, cameras snapped and popped constantly. They whispered, but no one had heard a thing through the strain that filled the room. Kody Brown sat at the defense table, clasping his hands together tightly, jaw set hard. He'd not slept well in days, and it was evident. Each testimony, each envelope full of evidence, had worn at him like an insidious erosion. Judge Harper brought the court to order. We will now hear more witnesses about Mr. Brown's behavior and how it affected the family. Prosecution, proceed. Elena Cruz rose to her feet, clutching a fat binder of papers. Your Honor, the court will hear from family friends, past staff, and neighborhood members who observed Mr. Brown's secretive financial dealings and manipulative nature throughout the years. The first witness was a personal family friend who had been over to their house hundreds of times. His tone was even but was very authoritative. I saw inconsistencies in conversations about money, he testified. Kody would say things would happen in the future, but he wouldn't go into detail. He'd tell the wives one thing, but do something else behind their backs. The level of secrecy was shocking. Christine's eyes grew hard as she listened. Janelle's lips were drawn tight together. Kody's face was still pale, with fidgeting hands on the table. Lying gets louder when others finally come forward to testify to what they have seen. A former house manager emerged next. She had remained silent for years, afraid of repercussions. Her hands trembled as she testified. Brown would redirect money from family budgets without telling the family, she said. We were assured it was for long-term planning. But in hindsight, it was obvious that money wasn't going toward the family. It was going elsewhere. She provided the court with a stack of receipts and spreadsheets. These are all tracked. Every transaction, every secret account. Kody's attorney attempted to object, but Judge Harper hushed him. The women looked at one another, a mix of vindication and sadness. Even Robyn's face was white, her hands shaking ever so slightly. The truth doesn't remain hidden forever. It finds its voice in witnesses. And then the most stunning revelation of all. Elena introduced a series of messages between Kody and a Nevada business acquaintance. The messages were blunt, directions to conceal family funds, stay under the radar, and play accounting games. Mr. Brown told me to make false statements and establish shell companies. The associate testified by video deposition. He wanted the money totally concealed from the other wives. I complied. The courtroom erupted into whispers. Kody's hand shot up, shaking. That's not true, he exclaimed. But his voice lacked the confidence of previous days. Even his lawyer glanced anxiously at him. Christine's tears fell silently. Janelle's hands clenched into fists. Meri's expression was icy. Robyn looked away, unable to watch. When hidden actions are exposed, even the boldest defenses crumble. Elena addressed Kody. You've informed the court all of the activity was on behalf of the family's future. Can you tell me why these communications direct concealing money from the family completely? He opened his mouth, stuttered, then spoke in a whisper. I was trying to protect them. The judge's gavel slammed loudly. Thoughts are not evidence, Mr. Brown. Actions are. Next, the prosecution presented the final emotional witness. A relative who had been quiet so far. The testimony of the person cut the deepest of all. He promised us security, the witness stated, voice shaking. Instead, he promised himself a life of deceit. He lied, he manipulated, and we were hurt, emotionally and financially. We were left wondering if the family that we loved even existed. The courtroom was silent, the weight of the words settling over everyone. Kody lowered his head, silent for the first time, truly cornered. There is no hiding when those you've harmed rise together. As the session continued, the tension escalated. Elena presented yet another set of financial documents, showing property transfers, unreported assets, and even personal loans Kody had taken from joint accounts without disclosure. The wives leaned in forward in their chairs, each piece of paper slicing deeper than the one before. Kody's attorney whispered desperately, but Kody didn't answer. His silence told them everything. And then, with a moment that left everyone hanging, the judge fixed him with a stare. Mr. Brown, the evidence indicates a pattern of intentional dishonesty, concealing assets, and emotional manipulation. The court can only take the entire range of your conduct into consideration when determining consequences. Kody swallowed hard. His gaze darted to the wives, who glared back at him unflinchingly. Power is never absolute, and pride never survives when it is faced with reality. The courtroom doors swung briefly open for a short recess, and the women strolled down the hallway as a group. Christine barely whispered, "It's finally being exposed." Janelle nodded. "Every deception, every lie. He can't hide it anymore." Meri's voice was quiet but resolute, "And we'll make sure justice is done." Robyn's lips pressed together. "This isn't over yet, but it will be soon." Inside, Kody sat alone, staring at the stacks of evidence. A small envelope caught his eye, one that hadn't been mentioned in court. He hesitated and then opened it. Within was a letter from the Nevada Department of Justice, announcing a possible criminal investigation into tax fraud and embezzlement involving the concealed accounts. His hands trembled. His decades-long empire was dissolving quicker than he could grasp. And at that moment, he understood, even if he made it through this ordeal, his family, his reputation, and his secrets would never be the same. The courthouse was filled again, all eyes upon Kody Brown. The atmosphere was charged, crackling with expectation. Social media streams had blown up overnight, the trial trending across the country. Everyone was asking the same question: would justice at last be done? Kody sat at the defense table with head bent, fingers crossed. He seemed smaller than he usually did, without the swagger that used to fill the space. The burden of weeks of testimony, evidence, and exposure weighed on him like a tempest. Judge Harper arrived, banging the court into order. "Be seated." The wives, Christine, Janelle, Meri, and Robyn, sat together, their faces strained but determined. For them, this was about more than dollars and cents. It was about truth, closure, and regaining the family torn apart. The bailiff indicated the final arguments. Elena Cruz stood first, her voice level but sharp. "Your Honor, the record is clear. Mr. Brown knowingly concealed money, falsified books, and lied to those who trusted him most. This was not an error. This was not mismanagement. This was an ongoing scheme of deception over years, state lines, and affecting several families." She locked eyes with Kody. Not just trust, but the very fabric of family was betrayed. The court needs to see the seriousness of these actions and hand down a verdict that represents both the financial and emotional loss incurred. Smiles can conceal deception, but the courtroom cannot. Kody's attorney stood up next, trying to plead for him, but even his argument sounded shallow in the midst of condemning evidence. "Your Honor, my client acted in what he thought was the best interest of the family. He never meant any harm." Judge Harper furrowed her brow. "Intent cannot undo action. The court will look at intent, but actions have consequences, Mr. Brown." The air was held in suspense. Outside, the cameras blazed constantly, the tension almost palpable. The judge leaned forward, hands on the podium. After considering all evidence, testimonies, and paperwork, the court finds Mr. Kody Brown. Kody's heart raced. His hands were wet. The room fell quiet. Even the journalist stopped breathing. Guilty of intentional financial fraud and manipulation of household finances. The acts amount to breach of trust and intentional hiding of assets. A murmur ran through the courtroom. Christine gasped, tears forming in her eyes. Janelle clenched her fists, barely able to contain the relief. Meri's face softened slightly, a small exhale escaping her lips. Robyn's eyes glistened as she looked at the other wives, a quiet acknowledgement of shared victory. Justice is loudest when the truth finally has a voice. Judge Harper continued. The court directs restitution of all secreted funds to the victims, and monitoring of future financial transactions. Moreover, Mr. Brown is placed on probation and required financial counseling to avoid recurrence. This court is aware of the emotional loss suffered by the family and calls for further therapy and reconciliation. Kody's head sank, his face white. He grumbled incoherently. I didn't expect it to finish like this. Christine stood up, her voice shaking as she spoke in a quiet tone to the group. It's over. The truth is out, and we can finally move on. Janelle nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. We can start again. Meri contributed. We survived. That is what it is all about. Robyn smiled weakly, tears in her eyes. The family is better now because we were unified. When deception is uncovered, families either fall apart or become stronger. And these women did the latter. As the courtroom cleared, cameras trailed the wives out into the street. Flashbulbs illuminated their faces. They walked arm in arm, heads held high. After months of tension and betrayal, Kody stayed behind, left to his thoughts. The truth of what he had done was inescapable. The empire he had constructed on deception and manipulation crumbled before the eyes of the world. The ones he had trusted most, the very ones he professed to protect, had stood against him and lived. The wives stood outside the courthouse steps, exchanging glances of tacit understanding. Christine spoke first. We can finally heal. Janelle added, we'll take back what he tried to steal. Not just money, but trust. Meri and Robyn nodded, their expressions a mix of relief and resolve. True strength is revealed not in avoiding betrayal, but in rising above it. The cameras captured their final words. As the crowd shouted questions, Christine faced the microphone. Family doesn't revolve around one person dominating all the others. Family is about honesty, love, and respect. We hope people understand the repercussions of lying and learn from that. And then Robyn chimed in, gazing into the camera. What would you do if the person who you love deceived you for years? Comment below. We want to know what you think. The women exited together, their solidarity undeniable. Kody stayed in the courthouse, gazing at the vacant courtroom, surrounded by the evidence, waiting for the consequences he had been ignoring for so long. And eventually the truth always prevails, no matter how deep it's been buried. The saga is over, but the lessons persist.